You're building the empire
and we'll help you protect it.
because even the most powerful women
Still have trust issues.
Hey girl,
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. How you been?
I've been good. It's been a great time with trust issues, and I'm excited on what we're doing, how
Yeah.
we're talking about some key things, and just what we're doing to help people.
Very much so. We've been bringing some really good information and finding out where people are really responding to. You know, I was looking at the analytics and the thing that we're going to talk about today, hot topic.
Yes, and we giving the people what they want.
Yes,
We
yes.
we giving it
They
to
have
them.
spoken.
Yes. And we are responding. Here at Trust Issues, we want to make sure that, so keep on responding to us, keep on reaching out to us, because we're going to hit that topic that's important to you.
Yeah, I got a couple people that sent some questions, so.
Okay. Well, we're gonna get to it.
Yeah.
And today is a very important topic. And it's a topic that a lot of us face or even are a part of.
We've both been through it.
We've both been through it.
Yeah.
And what we've been through is having a blended family.
Blended families.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it that we don't think about.
And non-traditional ways of interacting, becoming a family. And, it's clear, the Bible talks about the two becoming one, and they become one flesh. But a lot of times we have to become one family.
What about those kids?
Yes. So we all got to be operate as one, one band, one sound.
One band, one sound.
One
Right.
band.
So today we're going to talk about the blended family and the conversation that every family needs to have.
Yes. Yes. Every family needs to have this conversation. And these are very important conversations because blended families, they're different.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they can be a blessing. It can be a very great experience to grow up or even experience being in a blended family.
I mean, the Brady Bunch.
The Brady Bunch.
The Brady Bunch.
That was the ultimate
Right.
test in front of us, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So listen, love brought us together, but will money tear us apart?
That's real. Let's acknowledge something. Blended families are beautiful, but they're built from resilience and
Paying attention to the hard things,
second chances.
having those difficult conversations.
And sometimes you have to, and it can be sometimes a pink elephant in the room. And I call it the pink elephant. It's like everybody's walking around the elephant. It's like, don't you see that?
Yeah.
And everybody's kind of tiptoeing around it, but it's like pretty soon that elephant is going to take up the entire room.
And listen, what about now we know that we're doing all that work to bring the family together. But what happens when you bring the family together and you talk about the wealth transfer or the transfer of assets to that next generation or the generation after? What if the parents got divorced? What is it that the children need to consider, or what is it that the family needs to consider when it comes to that second and third generation if that blended family tears down?
And I think that's where families make mistakes. They assume everything will automatically work itself out instead of dealing with it. But it won't. The law doesn't operate on assumptions. The law operates on documentation. If your wishes are written out, then you're going to make sure that they are carried out. The law makes sure they're carried out. But it also makes sure that if you didn't write it out, that the state is going to decide what's happening.
All right, so let me start with the difficult question. If something happened to you tomorrow, would your spouse be protected? Would your children be protected? But would your stepchildren be protected? Or would your family be fighting over everything you've worked your entire life to build? Because here's what nobody talks about. The more people you love, the more complicated it can become, right?
It can become very complicated.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's more true when it comes to blended families, with which both of us have experience. So that's what we're going to get into real deep today. So I want to say welcome to Trust Issues. I am one of your hosts, Erica Hall with EH Wealth Advisors. Advisors.
And I am your other co-host, Urenia Ricks-Johnson, your estate planning attorney and founder of Ricks & Associates, PLLC. Today is one of this happens, and I see this really on a regular basis.
Yeah.
People spend years blending their families, but spend zero time planning.
Isn't that so true? That is so true, because you love working on blending the family together, taking vacation. Planning is what keeps it together.
Yes, and I call it, when I experienced the blended family, I called it, thinking back on it, growing pains. Because we spend a lot of time, and I know I spent a lot of time just making sure that everything was right. I was in the stage initially of I wanted to make sure everything was right, everything was on point, everything was, making sure everybody felt comfortable. I was just trying to do so much, but I was not doing the planning part to make sure that what I had established and making sure it's right, but it's right when it's planned out.
Listen, I don't know where my wisdom came from, but it had to come from the Lord.
Yes.
And I remember telling my husband very early on, here's what's going to happen. You focus on me, and I'll focus on the children, all of them.
That's good.
You take care of me, I'll take care of all the children. There won't be any difference.
Yes, and I think that that's important, because I think that sets the standards, because children are creatures of habit and environment. You set the tone if you do it right.
You do.
So by him concentrating on you, then it allowed them to understand, and that automatically commanded respect, though.
Oh, definitely.
Because this is number one.
Yeah.
And I can say that even when it came to my family, as far as with when I came into the situation of having, my husband had 2 daughters when we got married.
Yeah.
The tone was set early on that
in the beginning.
This is her. She's the one. She's the number one woman in this house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And by doing that, it just set things in order. And we know that God is a God of order, and he blesses when we do those things correctly. It doesn't mean you're not going to have growing pains. It doesn't mean you're not going to have situations and things that happen.
Yeah.
But setting that order first is key.
Definitely, because I don't know if I was a little different because of the way that I was raised. I was raised in a family where there are no strangers. I mean, you don't treat children differently because of their parentage, because we found them later. They were, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I saw, growing up in my family, I saw where, there might have been a child, an illegitimate child or something out there that was brought into the fold, and we were so happy to bring them in, and they were treated like they had always been there. And there was no difference in the love. There was no difference in the love and in the treatment. And so when it happened to me as an adult and in my marriage, I said, you're my free baby, right? You're the one that I didn't have to
push out.
Come on here.
We didn't have to go through the growing pains. We didn't have to go through the labor pains. Let me say that.
I didn't have to go through the labor pains.
No labor pains.
And I looked at the positive side of it, and I also saw that, as a child, of course, with all the innocence, no matter how old they are, treating them, helping them making sure that there's no distinction.
Yes.
There's no distinction. There's no distinction, making sure they have their own space, making sure they have, making sure that that everyone feels loved. And so I believe that it was my job as mom to set that tone for them. And so I asked my husband, I said, listen, if you can just demonstrate that love for me, then I can demonstrate that love for them, and I know that you have my back, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that
because even with the ones that I gave birth to, because they could be some little rascals too.
Right. And it definitely goes a long way, and I appreciate that, and it's similar to how I came into the situation as well. It was setting that tone, making sure that it was my
like
goal initially, because I wanted to make sure that they reached their fullest potential under my watch.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that the same goals that I had, and at that time I didn't have any children, so the same goals that I had that I would have for my own children,
Yeah.
I set it for them.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that early on, children know if that's where you're at, and that if that's your agenda, and if that's your promise to them, and if that's your heart.
Because they can feel it. Because listen, the truth is, people outside of our home didn't have the same setting the tone perspective. You know what I'm saying? People outside of our home wanted to make distinctions.
Oh yeah.
They wanted to make.
Oh yeah.
They wanted to identify the differences and would say things to my children that I was like, that don't come inside of our home. I don't care what they say. This is how things go here.
Right.
And this is how it's going to be. And so, but now that we're adults, now that I said we're adults, now that they,
right.
now that they're all adults,
right?
And now that, because I try to, if you put yourself in their shoes, what if this was you, and what if your parents didn't make it, right? What if there's a dissolution of the marriage, a divorce, or one passes away and you're the stepchild, or what rights do you have as the child, and then as a parent, how do you make sure that those stepchildren are covered? Because I've seen some ugly stuff.
I have too, and I see it from a legal perspective of the children, and like you said, you want to put yourself in that situation with that child growing up and experiencing that. Of course, we want the best, and we want to plan for every aspect of it, whether it's good or bad. Because sometimes it's a situation where even though you've created that environment for everybody to love each other, it may not be love.
It may not be
when they grow up.
No, they can turn out. They can have a different kind of relationship, and whether they're biologically siblings or they grew up in the same household. And that's the thing. I think that because we have had so many blended cousins growing up in the house types of situations, from the child's perspective, they're expecting that same love and care as they grow into adulthood. But what I've come to realize is you may not have anything coming if you aren't a biological child. The marriage breaks down, or like I said, if there's a death, you may not have considered whether or not there's an inheritance for you.
And see, that's what I mean by when we start out and we say we spend all this time trying to make sure that the blended family is good, but we're not really planning for that legacy planning, and it has to be intentional.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that if you do have a blended family, your legacy planning has to be really intentional.
Yeah.
And it has to be based on your family dynamic.
Yeah. So the planning needs to happen now.
Yes,
not
because
later.
if you don't, then you leave it up to chance, and you leave it up to the state or the court deciding the family dynamic.
Okay, that's that hard conversation that I'm talking about, right? The hard conversation of it's not after you set the tone. Now it's about the dynamics of how the let's say you have a daughter, and she's a little older. She's a daddy's girl, and now you have a wife, and there may be some friction, right? There may be some friction, and there may in having that hard conversation or addressing it head on, having a family meeting,
and definitely having a family meeting and making sure that everybody understands the key documents that you need to have. And every family needs to have these key documents. We got to be practical about it. Every family member needs to have a will.
Yeah.
Every family member needs to have a will. Every family member needs to go take it that step further and have a trust.
Identify those wishes up front.
Yes, so then that way you don't have to leave it up to court by chance at all. If you don't
we
want the
don't
court
wanna-
involved at all,
we don't wanna
then
be
you
fighting.
take it to that next step and do that trust. But even more, especially if you have adult children, you have to have that power of attorney.
Yeah.
And the power of attorney is for the parent as well as adult children.
Yeah.
The power of attorney and the medical power of attorney. And this is the reason why it's so key. It's because if your child goes away to college, or if they're out of your household and they're 18 and you have a blended family, and God forbid that child is in the hospital, who makes a medical decision for them?
We don't think about, listen, the first time I was slapped with, you can't get your child's records and I'm paying the tuition. I can't see the grades.
You can't see the grades.
What in the what?
And normally, when they were in high school, elementary, middle school, they gave you the parent portal. You was always checking to see, like, okay, why you got that?
I was all in.
Why you get that, right? But when you were in college, they have their own portal. There is no parent portal.
I was feeling a little alienated, but they wanted my money.
There's no parent
Pay
portal.
that check.
There's no parent
Send
portal,
that check. Right.
which means that that
is no
child has to give you permission,
Authorization,
and that
right.
adult
child
has to give you authorization. Also, and this came in point even for me, because I had my daughter, she had to have surgery. And at the point when she had to have surgery, we had to have the conversation about, okay, who do you want to make a medical decision for you? Do you want, because she's a part of two separate households. Her mom has remarried, and then it's me and her dad.
Ooh,
right? So now at this point, she has to make that decision on who does she want to make that medical, or does she not want either one of us? Does she want her sister to do it?
Right. So listen, so let's talk about the fights, because because
they will happen.
Yeah, people think that they happen because people are greedy. A lot of those dynamics, I've come to realize that it's not about greed. It can be about, this is how I grieve, right? This is how I grieve. And most conflicts happen because expectations were never discussed. And, I was with a client the other day, and we were changing beneficiaries on accounts. And, and I'm still trying to reiterate, and reemphasize the importance of having the trust. Because I said, okay, now the primary beneficiary, and you name the person that you have in mind ideal for the contingent, right? I said, but what happens when now the primary beneficiary has had some really significant life changes?
Okay.
What happens when the primary beneficiary becomes owner of the account? That contingent can be changed. Now they can put whomever they want, and now your wishes are no longer being followed, and you're no longer here. You have no say so. So you're not covering yourself by just having. People think that by just retitling those assets, just without the trust, without the will, it satisfies everything. And I mean, with the ladybird deeds and
and
all
those are all
stuff.
tools. But I tell my clients all the time, the trust is a catch-all.
Yeah.
You need to have that for all the what ifs, because like you said, you want to make sure if that trust is there, if you want to have any control over it based on your wishes, then you need that trust, because it catches, if God forbid that primary beneficiary passes away, if God forbid something happens where you want to no longer have that primary beneficiary be that person that you want to make sure that you have that trust as a catch-all. And that's the reason why it's so important.
Yeah.
And making sure that you understand that also with beneficiary designation, that they override any type of will or trust. So if you have somebody listed as your primary beneficiary, it doesn't go through your trust.
Right. It's outside of the state. So when we're doing financial planning, we're definitely making sure that this is a part of our standard thing that we do, but know that this has limitations.
It does.
This has limitations, and I'm doing my due diligence to make sure that it's not just the investments that I manage, but it's I'm like, let me see those bank accounts. Let me see all the accounts that you know we have a ton of accounts, right?
We have the one off to the side.
Yeah.
What accounts you talking about?
Come on.
Yeah, and
Certain things that don't get talked about in the whole meeting, and then I find out later. But I want to.
Oh, you meant that account.
I want to reemphasize the piece about the fighting, because, in joking, you'll hear a parent say, "Oh, well, I want my sister to get this," or my aunt said to me one day. So my aunt, she always says that she and I are so much alike, and that my sister and her daughter are so much alike, and so she and I love, we like to dress,
right?
We like to dress, and so she says to me the other day, she was like, "Make sure Erica get all my furs,"
Right.
I said to my sister and to my cousin, y'all heard her now,
right?
But they don't. They can act like they have amnesia.
Like whatever
right?
you said, unless she write that down. And that's the good thing about here in Michigan. You can write those things out, sign it, put it with your plan, and it will be honored. Erica receives all of my furs.
Yeah, you hear that, Auntie?
That has to be honored. She doesn't even have to change anything connected to her whole plan. She can write. It's called a tangible personal property list.
Okay.
And in Michigan, that is honored just like any other part of your estate plan.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important that.
But the plan has to already be.
It has to already be in place.
Okay.
You have to. All you have to do is sign it, date it, and it doesn't have to be notarized or anything like that. And it has to be, and it will be honored.
And the other part is, they can't get mad at me, or they can't get mad at you. I say, your life will go through so many different relationship changes, and you never know when that moment comes. But if it's in writing, your executor or your trustee or your beneficiaries can say, well, here's what mom wrote, here's what dad wrote, and I'm just honoring their wishes.
I'm just following it.
You can't get mad at me for distributing the estate the way that the wishes are laid out here. All they can say is okay.
And they're following those things. And then also I have a lot of clients that don't necessarily even want their family to make the decision. That's the reason why you have certain individuals that
make the decision.
Attorneys, our office is a lot of times we serve as trustee of a lot of trusts.
Yeah. Because
people want to be outside of making that decision, and they know their family would be caught in the middle.
They don't want them fighting.
Yeah.
Because that fighting will never end. That it'll go. People, their children, will be fighting. Don't know what they're fighting about. Like our aunties don't talk no more. I mean, I've had it happen, and the client will ask me, well, what should I do? And I'm saying, well, you got to follow the wishes of the trust. So even in that case where they followed the wishes of the trust, the siblings they said, but Uncle loved us too. And they're like, what? It's out of my hands.
What's love got to do with it?
This is what it says.
The writing stands.
Yeah.
The writing stands. And that's why, like we talk about, the conversation isn't really about money. It's about expectations.
It is.
And you have to follow those wishes or those expectations that are set out in those documents.
Because obviously there was some thought into who I'm going to give things to. And so as we talk about that, when it comes to those blended families and the stepchildren and the biological children being able to be covered in any event. And so you talked about the 5 documents.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the trust.
Yes.
Will. Power of attorney.
Yes.
Medical power of attorney.
Yes.
And beneficiary designation.
Beneficiary. What is beneficiary designations?
That's a bank account where you have a beneficiary that you can. It's also called a POD, payable upon death.
Oh yes.
So you have those are designated vehicles where you can transfer property outside of the estate.
Outside of the trust,
just like you have with your investment accounts, you can do the same thing.
Yeah, we have TODs.
IRA. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the same thing, but those are called, from a legal perspective, beneficiary designations. These are direct distributions.
Yeah.
These are ways where you can pass these to your family, friends,
or
loved ones, entities,
yeah,
whoever you designate,
to your
they
church.
receive it, to your church. Religious organization, charities, nonprofits, whoever you designate on that TOD or POD, it goes directly to them upon the showing of those triggering moments where you show that death certificate, you prove that person has passed away, and then those funds are payable to you, and that's what it means by payable upon death.
Yeah, that's good, because I don't open up any account that doesn't have a beneficiary designation.
Yes.
Although it's possible, which, I think it should be, it should not be possible to open up a checking account and not put a beneficiary. You should not be able to open up a brokerage account and not put a beneficiary on the account, because you can't open up an IRA account without a beneficiary.
But see, that's the reason why it's so important for people to have financial advisors like you.
Amen.
Edge Wealth Advisors, because you have that extra layer of care and protection. Because most of the time when I talk to clients, they're like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Or I didn't know I could do that.
Why did they let me open up?
Why did they let me open up? And they're just about opening up the accounts. They don't have to go that extra mile.
Right.
And they're not required by law to go that extra mile for you.
Right.
In that, and that's the reason why that personal banker, that personal relationship is so important, and that's what we're kind of getting away from when we have all of the things that happens online or happens where you can just kind of go in and just do things, and you don't have that personal relationship with your banker. It used to be back in the day where you had those personal relationships with your banker, with whoever you did investments with, but now everything is so digital, everything is so just on demand that we have to go back to the basics of just making sure that we're intentional and we're providing clarity to our friends and family on what our wishes are. Listen,
I also am an advocate for the education and the literacy.
Yes.
One of the reasons I started like the My Advisor program, because I wanted to let anyone who's at any income or asset or net worth level to understand the importance of an advisor. Working with an advisor teaches you what to expect from your financial relationships.
Yes.
You should expect certain things. Even if you go into the bank and you've never talked to or had a personal banker, you can forge a relationship with a banker. You can forge a relationship with a financial person, so that, because our goal is to educate you.
Yes.
Our goal is to educate you. And so let's talk about the family legacy conversation, because I got a question from a couple folks, some questions from a couple of folks about the legacy issue. And one of the tools that we talk about when we're doing our legacy planning or meeting with families with wealth planning is not only the financial, but what kind of values, what does it say that you have not made account or you have not made a provision for grandchildren or children, no matter what the dynamics in the family may turn out to be.
And that's why it's important, like we talked about, of meeting with the professionals, meeting with people to make sure that it prompts you to start thinking beyond just your immediate family or immediate scope. Our job is to help to broaden the horizons of our clients. Our job is to make sure that they understand and they think about it from a legacy perspective instead of just thinking about the right now.
Yeah. Listen, I was, you reminded me of a meeting I had the other day, and I had sent, prior to the meeting, I sent a questionnaire and have them thinking about the next level, because sometimes, people think that just because you started doing financial planning, that's it. No, there's a lot more layers to now that we've completed the trust. Now that we've completed, now that's more. But it's going to be easier,
right? It's
going to be easier. And but what I thought about was the whole conversation was, and then you got us to thinking about this, and then this question about we hadn't even thought about that. So we had to have a conversation with our family to answer this question. That thinking beyond where you are today, because basically what we do with the financial plan is we get a snapshot of everything that you have and show you this is you on paper. This is what you look like.
Good, bad, ugly.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so let's get to this question. It says, with blended families, two individuals marry, they bring children into the marriage. They're not just bringing two households, but they're joining two family legacies, right? And so as those children mature and have children of their own, thinking about financial and legal planning becomes essential. But without the proper planning, the assets intended for children and grandchildren can be unintentionally diverted.
Yes, they can go
depleted,
to places. Yeah, they can go to places.
Or become subject of family conflict. So as parents, what tools or systems should be put in place to ensure that the wealth is secured to the third and fourth generation?
My first response to that is update.
Yeah.
Right? So if you have a plan, because it sounds like in this scenario, they may have had something and they probably thought about it, like you talked about, had that initial foundation, said we're going to make sure we have a plan. We met with the financial advisor.
Yeah.
We met with our people.
Yeah.
We probably met with an attorney, and we got this off the ground. We got the plane off the ground.
Right.
But a lot of times we don't think about, once we get it set, we don't think about the fact that we have life is lifing.
Yeah.
And things happen, people change, people become, whether they become more trustworthy or less trustworthy, they may become more in a position where you feel like they need the assistance or don't need the assistance.
Yeah.
More situations where you just have different family dynamics. And that's the reason why I encourage my clients to always update, always look at your plan. This should not be something that you have your book. I give them a nice book, but I tell them this book should constantly be reviewed, changed, and updated. That's how you ensure that it doesn't get diverted. That's how you ensure that it keeps going from generation to generation, because what are the provisions that you're putting in place for it to go to that? It's not automatic sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
Because if you have individuals on there that have passed away, or individuals that are not trustworthy anymore, or not in a position to do what you've asked them to do, then it can be diverted.
Yeah.
It can be where it stops at this generation instead of going on from generation to generation. So you need to make sure you have provisions in there that help to stall that. There are provisions in trust called the spendthrift provision that basically helps to safeguard and make sure that it is your intent for this trust to keep going and going, and pretty much puts parameters on that trustee to make sure that your wishes that these funds are not spent in a way where it doesn't accomplish the goals within your trust.
Yeah, that's good.
So those are safeguards. So there are rails, there are safeguards in place, but they only are activated or only as effective as to when people are notified of them.
Yeah.
And when you discover that person or somebody is not in a position to do what you've asked them to do, that you do those replacements, that you do those updates, that you meet with your financial advisor, you meet with your attorney, and make sure that it's still accomplishing those goals that you set it out to do.
Oh, definitely. I think the greatest thing out of that you can control is that what you said, the update. Updating is keeping in mind as life continues to change. Life, but assets grow too, right? Those assets grow, and now that you have, or you've amassed more assets, or you've done a great job of saving, your portfolio is now significant to where it requires different kinds of structures and things like that. It's so important. This is when we're meeting, now you're thinking about the how this is going to affect your family, how you want to set aside these assets for, future, or for another generation, or, okay, this is what I want to live on, things like that. So one of the tools that I love is giving a client, we give a client a dashboard, and on their client portal, in their dashboard, they can see everything in one place. Being
That's
able to see
good.
everything in one place. You can click it. You can see the current beneficiaries that are listed on all the accounts, how much it's grown, what the plan is for it. You know, when they're looking at their retirement plan or or if it's a financial goal, if it's been allocated towards a specific goal. And what if that goal changes?
Right.
Right. What if that goal changes? We can redirect it towards something else. And so planning is ever evolving. And you need those tools that you can do it digitally, because you can look in there and see real-time numbers and make real-time decisions.
Yes, and having it before you, like you said, it prompts you to make sure, oh, this is not right.
Yeah.
This is something that I want. And then also knowing that, you know, as we grow and move forward, our objectives and our goals may change.
Yeah.
And also, I know from a legal perspective, we're looking at tax consequences. We're also looking at the best tax strategies for you to have. And then if those assets are growing, Erica's growing those assets for you, and you right at that threshold, we may need to look at another type of trust. We need to start looking at
tax
converting that trust to maybe an irrevocable trust as opposed to a revocable living trust.
Yeah.
But all those things happen by you meeting with the proper professionals, meeting with us, and we're looking at that portfolio. We're looking at what's happening in order to best satisfy your needs and your desires long term.
That's really good. And so, you know, if there is a great takeaway from our time today, because it's all about protecting what you've built, you know, and the other part I would say is making sure that your children are part of the conversation. Making sure they're a part of knowing what the plans are, because if they don't know, or they have just rejected any financial education, literacy, you know, being a part of knowing how to benefit from the assets without exhausting them, so that they can pass on to the next generation. And by that I mean they're like, you know what, I don't want to know how to manage. I'm not interested in attending the meetings, and I'm not interested, but just buy me a car or buy me a house or give me a down payment, and I'm good.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm good. And then they have children, and it's like, okay, these assets aren't going to be able to pass along if we just give the ball to their parents.
Yes, because we know that they're not going to make sure that happens. So that's the reason why that trust is so important, because you can leave it and leave distributions too, and you can make it contingent upon that next generation attending the legacy planning meeting.
Yeah, I like that.
And we want to make sure that we make legacy planning normal.
Yeah, it should be, because when people hear the word legacy, they think money, but legacy is bigger than money. Legacy is preparation, it's communication, it's making decisions while you can still make those decisions, while you aren't forced to make, well, our only option is this, and or this.
Yes. And then, you know, I have a lot of clients, as I talk about all the time, they're reactional. I have clients that they want to get a power of attorney, and the family member is in the hospital hooked up to a machine. This is not the time. You can't get a power of attorney. Now you got to go to court.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but why do we wait? I don't know why we wait.
Because it's not normal. So we have to make legacy planning normal.
Yeah.
It should be in normal conversations. It should be general conversations that we have, and that we are planning, and we're making it where we are having these tough conversations, but it's normal.
Yeah, definitely. And now that, so I know a couple people who have divorced, and they were a blended family, but now they're not a blended family. But the children and the parents, they still want to have a relationship with one another.
Yeah.
And, those are some things that needs to be considered. I know it's a hard conversation, but if today's conversation made you realize that your blended family doesn't have a plan, don't panic.
You can still get a plan.
Oh, yeah.
We have plans. We have worksheets that are available that you can download resources today in the comment section of this episode, where you can download, and you can visit either one of our websites. You can visit www.ehwealthadvisors.com, or you can schedule your estate planning consultation with me at www.ricks-law.com, and we can help you to protect what you've built.
That's right, because love may have blended your family, but not planning could tear it apart.
And the greatest gift you can leave your family isn't wealth, it's clarity.
That's right. So we'll see you next time on Trust Issues. This is where power meets protection,
legal meets legacy,
and money meets mindset. I'm Erica Hall with EH Wealth Advisors.
And I'm Urenia Ricks-Johnson with Ricks & Associates, PLLC.
All right. See you next time.
See you next time.